Hey folks, this is Granison Shines, and I am here with
Frank Shines.
Frank. Has just written a book co-authored by yours truly here, and I'm going to let Frank tell you a bit more about himself and about the book. So Frank, can you give our audience a little bit more about the book title and what inspired you to write the book?
Yeah, certainly can. So first of all, led in but left out, leadership, knowledge, and faith in the age of AI, coronavirus, and fake news. So that's a bit of a mouthful, right? So was formerly in the Air Force, and one of the things that I've noticed recently is what's been happening with regards to fake news and the potential impact that that might have on our democracy.
Okay.
As a person who took the oath to defend the U.S. Constitution, has become of increasingly importance to me. But also from a different perspective, as a person in business and technology, working on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence with a background in marketing analytics, we saw a lot of things that's been happening recently on how we kind of manipulate individuals into understanding their behavior and then predicting that behavior and being able to control that behavior by using these new algorithms.
Okay.
Right? So as an example, many of you watch Netflix, right? Coronavirus, everybody's watching Netflix.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're not just watching Netflix, Netflix is watching you. Google.
Okay. All right.
People search on Google, but
Okay.
you're not just searching on Google, Google is searching you. And likewise, when you go and work with a little ebook reader, right, the Kindle reader,
Sure.
that reader is reading you at the same time that you are reading it.
Now, now
Let me
you
explain you
that.
what I'm talking
Okay.
about.
All right. Perfect.
So when you search for Google, what's happening is Google is also searching. They know where you're located with your mobile phone, so they know
Sure.
where you are
Right.
specifically geographically.
Yep.
They also know what you're thinking by the keywords that you search on.
Sure.
That helps them understand your behavior, helps them understand when you use certain keywords at certain days of the week, perhaps
Yeah.
specific days of the month, perhaps specific times of the day. All those things help them understand your profile. They map that information with Fitbit, which they actually own now, right?
Wow.
And now they can understand a bit about what's happening with you from a physical perspective,
Yes,
right?
exactly, yes.
So your biologics, those things can be linked, the keywords can be linked to time and start to understand your behaviors. Similarly, when you go and you look at a search for different types of things you want to watch on Netflix, Netflix is not only letting you watch whatever you want to watch, but it's watching how you watch, right?
And suggest
How-
some of the videos
Yes,
for you,
and
right?
it's going to make a recommendation based upon what you watched. It's going to compare that to millions or billions of people who watch similar types of videos around the world, and it's going to say, given these certain things, people who tend to watch this also tend
Yes.
to watch this,
Yeah,
and therefore they'll make a recommendation to you. They will also look to see how fast you watch. Do you binge watch? Do you watch certain types of things for a little while and then flip it off? Maybe you
Right.
watch comedies for only 30 minutes through, and then that last hour you got enough laughter, maybe you're moving on to something else. Whereas on the other hand, when you look at Breaking Bad, everyone captures that, is captured in those first few minutes, and they will watch the rest of that
Sure.
series, right? And binge watch that series. So
Absolutely.
those are the types of behaviors they're being able to pick up on you.
Okay.
And then finally, with regards to, take Facebook. This is something that is not quite as harmless, not quite as innocuous. Facebook, what they're doing is they have advertising, and the advertising is intended to get you to click. And the more frequently you click, and the longer you stay on their site, the more money they make.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Sure.
this particular algorithm is designed to understand you and get you to take clicks and behaviors of reading things based upon what's going to be most impactful to you. And the reality for most of us as human beings, it's the emotional stuff, the anger,
Yep.
the hatred,
Yep.
right, the
Absolutely.
vitriol.
Yep.
Those are the types of things you're going to click more often on, and you're going to be more passionate about. And so they now know how to use those keywords that kind of jump past your normal logic and rationality and so forth, and they hijack your emotions to get you to click.
Absolutely. Wow, that's a lot there. And the book dives really deep into some of the other nuances regarding artificial intelligence. Now, Frank, let's switch the conversation over to something that we're all dealing with right now, the coronavirus.
Of course.
Coronavirus has really shaped how we do things now. I don't even know if we have a new norm yet. So we're talking about the coronavirus, and we're talking about fake news, and we're talking about some of the other aspects of the book. Tell us a little bit more about the coronavirus. What did you describe about that?
Yeah, sure. So when we look at the subtext of let in but left out, right? There's one subtext called let in coronavirus but left out bioscience. Right? So we let in a coronavirus, and let's be honest, none of us had much of a choice, right? We know what happened in Wuhan, China. This is not the first time viruses have traveled around the world, right? The Spanish epidemic, they call it the Spanish epidemic, but it probably didn't come from Spain. A lot of people think maybe it's originated here in the U.S. or maybe some other European nation. Regardless of where it originated, we've had these different types of viruses and things impacting our society for as long as man has been around.
Exactly, yes.
However, something has changed recently, right? As we encroach more often on wildlife habitat, what that means is we're closer to bats. We're closer to animals that carry the coronavirus. Rats, rodents, those sorts of things also carry the coronavirus. There are only about 3 major types of animal groups that typically carry the coronavirus. And as we encroach on their habitat, the bat is now going to get exposure to more of our domestic animals, right? So it could be pigs, which is what created the swine flu. It could be camels that created MERS, the Middle East outbreak. So as these animals get closer to us, then with those domesticated animals passing the virus on to human beings, it jumps across the species. It jumps from the animal species to the human species.
Correct.
And our bodies are not well adjusted to handle those types of viruses. And that's what's creating this increase in number of viruses. So when we talk about the book, the first thing we want to make sure everyone understands is what's the history, what's the science behind this. This is not something new. This is something that's been around for quite a while, and we first started looking at the data around the late 50s, early 60s to identify the first coronavirus. So what we do with the book is we say, given that reality of the science and the way humanity is evolving more and more closer to areas where animals' habitats are located, and we now have globalization where people are connected, they can jump on a plane and spread that coronavirus much more rapidly across the different parts of the world, right? Then what happens is we're just going to have an increasing frequency of these types of things. Until we change our behavior, right, we're not going to change Mother Nature. Mother Nature will retaliate. And so we say, given that reality, how do we define the definition of the problem? How do we measure its current impact? How do we analyze, get to the root cause, put in place improvements, treatments, vaccines ultimately, and then control that, right? It's called the DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. It's the scientific method applied to real life business problems that we face every day.
Right, okay, absolutely. Wow, that is a mouthful and an earful and an eyeful when you start reading this. It's so deep, and you have to make sure you get the book. Can you give us the title of the book again?
Let In But Left Out. Frank Shines and co-authored by my brother here, Granison Shines.
Thank you.